Down in Tennessee, where freedom is alive, his shots ring from the woods and down 45. Life is good. Ramble and he probably should. Tearing Northfield neighborhood in the life is good. He's always shooting down in he probably wouldn't do it if he could. His life is good. He wouldn't be living if he could. His life is good. Life is good.
All right. All right, yeah, Hickok 45 here, your internet shooting companion. And before I get started, I have one round left, so let's shoot something. Just had to have it empty, right? Oh yes, your internet shooting companion coming to you from the beautiful hills of Middle Tennessee, the home of Jeff Quinn, Alvin York, all sorts of interesting people no longer with us, but we're glad they were at one point because they made a contribution to the world. Unlike a lot of people who not only make no contribution, they subtract from the world, society, humanity, right? Unfortunately. Most people are not like that though, fortunately, right? So glad you're here. It's another Sunday and you're in the beautiful hills of Middle Tennessee. And it won't be long. It's feeling a little bit like fall, even though it won't stop raining, it seems like, for more than a day or two. It just has that feeling, right? And you may be back in school or whatever fall demands of you and changes in whatever ways it changes your schedule, right? A lot of my working years, the fall was a different time for me. I was back teaching, or when I was in publishing, it was a different time. So fall brings changes. How's that? So yeah, good to see you. Glad you're here. And I was shooting, as you might have noticed, those who've been around a while, my old Model 92, one of them. I have one in 4440. This one is chambered in 357 Magnum. It was made 1917, right? Yeah. And 357 Magnum. And you might wonder, if you're new, how that happened. Because the 357 Magnum came along in 1935. Well, it just so happens my grandpappy knew the people at Winchester, and he had some cartridges made a little bit early, and he was in on the invention and just got all this stuff like decades ahead of everybody else. Right, you believe that, right? No, this is the one I told you about. It's been rechambered for 357. It started out, I guess, as 3220, maybe. I'm not familiar with those cartridges. And so it was literally rechambered, the barrel, the old barrel and everything. And I got it a really, really good buy for much less than you would buy a replica, U-Birdie or something, Chiappa, of a Model 92, a lot less. And I would have paid an equal amount probably just because of the chambering, and it is an old rifle. Now, I know it's not authentic, it's been messed with, but if you're going to mess with an old gun, whoever did it, there's a lot of worse things you can do, in terms of messing with these old guns. And this one, it's not in pristine shape, which is not a big factor, but you still don't mess with old guns and old coins and things like that. You try not to do that. Just at one point, a lot of these old guns were so inexpensive, whether it's a Mauser, you name it, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, when, gun shops, surplus stores might have barrels full of them and, that kind of thing. And so you can understand why people during those eras were like, well, we got that old Mauser, you sporterize that thing and make a hunting rifle out of it. You can buy one for $39.95 and I can get me a $20 scope and have me a great deer rifle. Those things have great accuracy and a great action. So you can sort of see how that happened. And I'm just throwing prices, shooting from the hip on prices and things, but you get the drift there. Whereas, I don't know, like in a lot of other ways, I think society and people, we've all become a little bit more enlightened in so many ways. Despite what's happening in society, I think we're all much more enlightened. And a lot of the stuff, that's why it's fake, it's fiction. You know, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the news, it's not real, really. I mean, or it's incredibly exaggerated, you know, because people are just a little smarter than they used to be about a lot of things. And as I've said many, many times to you all, there really are not nearly as many people who are racist, you know, for example, as I've said. I'm convinced of that. And there, people are just more aware of things like this and not messing with it, you know, partly because of the cost of guns. But anyway, I got off track. I've never done that before. So 92, oh man, what a rifle. If you're brand new and don't know much about these old Wild West guns, even though it's not a Wild West gun, we think of these as Wild West, but they were used in the West, but they're also used in New York State, you know, Pennsylvania, Maine, you know, in 1895. I'm sure a lot of people bought a model 1892 Winchester, living in North Carolina, New York City, maybe. I don't know. So anyway, pretty cool gun, and I was in the mood. That's why I'm here, to bring it out, take a few shots with it. Have not fired it in a good while, and we've done several videos. I'm not sure what we've not done with it, but yeah, we'll do the whole gamut eventually, because I really like this old gun. It's just really neat. Someone turned the sight around on it. I understand that was I don't know how common it was, but it was something people did back in the day. I don't know when, but when they were carrying one of these in a scabbard on their horse, they would turn the sights around. It made it less fragile or something. I don't know, hang up as much. I don't know. And it does fine as far as shooting it, so makes sense to me. But that's a very common comment on any video in this gun. You'll see that over and over, right? It doesn't matter if I explain it in a video or 10 people explain it in comments, you still see those comments over and over. That's just the way the internet works. Social media is the way a YouTube video works. You know, you just can't explain everything. I mean, you see the comments and you see them on your videos, and you might make those same comments yourself. You're not trying to be smart aleck necessarily. You just don't know. There's people watching me right now, believe it or not, who probably this is their first video. And right now they're thinking, what am I doing here? What is this? You know, is he going to talk all the time, or is he going to shoot, or whatever, you know? So don't even know what a Sunday shoot around is. They don't know what Shooting the Breeze was, or the radio shows were, or, you know, it's just, they're new. So we try to be nice, okay? The thing, I mean, really, you know, that's why I bring it up. We should be tolerant of people who just don't know yet. They don't know how insane I am. They don't know how crazy I am. They don't know how much I like to talk and all that. And that's what these videos are kind of for, shooting and talking, more so than just the regular videos about a specific gun, new people. And so, you know, you get comments. The thing that always makes me wonder, though, you know, that being said, be nice to people, understand they're new, or they're young, really young, or whatever. They've had bad parenting, someone, you know, whatever the reason is, you see a strange comment. The one thing, though, you would think that almost everybody would have enough common sense. Now that we've had YouTube and social media so long, you would think that when you see something unusual, I mean, I do. I ain't all that bright. If I see a video and it doesn't make any sense, maybe it's a video someone I know is making a video that that doesn't make any sense. Let me jump on the keyboard and give them a hard time. No, there's probably a reason they're doing something different. Or there's probably a reason this video seems so crazy or whatever. Maybe not. I'll watch a little longer and see what other people are saying. Other people don't seem to notice it's crazy. I wonder what's wrong with them. I'm the only one who sees it. That's it. So let me go ahead and throw some hate on there. So anyway, that's the internet. That's people. That's humanity, right? So what else do I have? Oh, guess what else I have? Ballistol. Yeah, the good old juice, underarm deodorant. You know, I've been using it today on 2 or 3 different things. And then Talon grips. You know what? I think I got a little water in that, but I haven't replaced it or replenished it. And got that from Talon Grips as well. I held that in about 3 or 4 months, so I don't think I'll drink it. You know, need to change it out, I think, probably. So we appreciate Talon Grips, gungrips.com. Okay. All right. We're glad to have the support we have, and I am happy to talk about them. I don't want to over talk about them, you know, but we really appreciate the help we get, and appreciate you all. So what else do I have? I just showed it to you, didn't I? I flashed it up there for a second. Let's shoot it. You want to? It's a 45 Colt. Have I shown you this? Got to watch me. Senility is, I don't think I've had this one out. I had the old Bat Masterson out a week or two ago, didn't I? But I haven't had this thing out because I haven't had it that long. This is the Rooster shooter. It's from Cimarron, and it's made to look. I should have fooled you. I messed up. Oh, I got the wrong one. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. This is one of my old Colts right here. Yeah. Try to make up for it. Now this is not old. This is a Cimarron. You see it? I know you can. Duh. So it looks old, doesn't it? This is one of those that they made to look old, and they did a pretty good job, because I know old Colts. You know, I do. I know old Colts that look like this, and you'll see 1 or 2 in the video with this gun, because just to compare, because they do a darn good job. I have seen some guns that are made to look old, and they really just look like I don't know, more like a kid's, you know, cap gun or something. I don't know, but this not a bad job. It's designed to look like and be like the guns that John Wayne carried in several of the movies from the 70s, 60s, 70s. You know, El Dorado, True Grit, different things, and has the finger grooves even on the left side of the grip, and that fake ivory that was on his, actually, the movie guns. And it's pretty nice. Doesn't have any funky safeties or anything. It's pretty much like a Colt, except it's a kind of a 3-clicker instead of a 4-clicker. But yeah, but nice. I like it. So let's shoot it now. Is that okay? Now, so it's a Colt single action clone. This would be called a clone. There's a lesson for you. I probably not talked about enough. You hear people talk about Colt clones and Ruger Vaqueros and all the different firearms. A lot of the Colt single action copies that come out of Italy, and boy, there's a lot of people that make them. They're really mostly Colt clones. They're made to be pretty much exactly like a Colt in dimensions and everything. The action might be a little different, some things, but they pretty much are copies of the Colt. Whereas the Ruger Vaquero, which is actually a better made gun, probably, it outlasts these Colt clones and even the Colts, is made like a tank, but it has a different action totally, springs and everything. Okay, so it's not really a Colt clone. The Ruger Vaqueros, they look like a Colt. If I just held one up here real quick. Now the early ones were bigger. To me, they were too big. I don't think they make that now. I think the new ones, relative, right? They've been making them probably the last 10, 15 years. I think they call it the new Vaquero, where they size them down to the dimensions more of the Colt. Okay, still not a Colt clone because they got the modern action and different things. You know, to load it, you open up the loading gate, and then that frees the cylinder to spin. You can load 6 in them because they're safe to hold 6, all that kind of thing. But most of them coming out of Italy. I don't know, if not all, they're Colt clones, and you go to half cock and then spin the cylinder, and you want to load 5 instead of 6, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's Colt clone explained there for you, pretty much. It's probably half wrong, but something like that is true. Okay, let's put 5 in this thing, take a couple shots with it. And we got this ammo. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about ammo. Don't let me forget, okay? Let's put one on that target. How about on that plate? Another plate. Maybe even that 2-liter. How about a hog? Click. Yep. You too could be John Wayne. All right. It really has a nice look. You would think somebody who has had Colts and old Colts and black powder frame Colts like I have. You've seen some of the nice ones I've been fortunate to own and fire. Even black powder cartridges in there and everything. That I would look at this and say, yeah, good try. No, it's cool. I'm not a Cimarron rep, even though I like the company. I just Mike Harvey, that's his name. He's just done a great job on some of these guns, and this is one of them. So give credit where credit is due. Again, that's the beauty of being independent of all the gun companies. If I don't like this gun, I am first to tell you. If I like it, I might be first to tell you as well. What do I not like about it? Well, I don't know. Well, we do a video, and I'll give you all that info. Tell you all those lies. If it had 4 clicks, my gosh, you could really fool somebody. Because boy, I tell you what, it's just nice. There's just not a lot of negatives about it. It feels good. It's it's a little more expensive than the others. You can get a Colt clone, Birdie or something, or Cimarron, I guess, for what, are $500-600 now still. This one I think is around $8, so it costs more. It costs more to lay it out in the weather for 3 months and let it get weathered like that. No, I'm sure that was tough to do to get it just right. It'd be interesting to talk to the whoever, the gunsmiths, the folks responsible for that finish, and just see what all sorts of methods they tried before they came up with this that really is pretty authentic. So it looks pretty cool, I have to say. I like it. So yeah, that's a couple of guns I was going to shoot some. I like to shoot the new guns, in a casual way like this, and then go out and just shoot it and really focus on it and sight picture and everything. And I've done some of that with this already. It's just good. I've discovered over the years it's good to, even though we're not the ultimate testers, we're not the ultimate testers, mainly just giving you our impression. John and I have shot so many guns. I've been shooting my whole life and everything. So thankfully you all value our opinion on firearms, and that's mostly what I'm trying to give you, what I think of it, because I've shot a lot of firearms and try to be objective about it, although I'm biased too. So, but we're not the ultimate testers, whereas someone might take a firearm like this. Okay, we're going to do the 100-round test, and then we're going to see if it'll still chamber a round or gets too dirty or whatever it might be, and especially with semi-automatic firearms and that kind of thing. But that stuff all shows up on the internet pretty soon, right? A lot of people do that sort of thing. So we just give you our impression, and I kind of like that firearm, to tell you the truth. I really do, even though it's a fake old gun. One nice thing about it is my gun like this, I've got one made in 1884, and as you know, I've got to fire black powder in it. Yeah, black powder cartridges. And I've loaded them and I've bought them. I've got some I bought from Buffalo Arms, I guess, and that's not too hard to get a hold of some of those, but the cleaning process is pretty involved, right? And so I don't shoot it as much. One like this, you could just shoot all you want, and not have that issue to deal with. So what was I going to, I was going to talk about ammo. I see several comments, envious people seeing me shoot ammo, and they don't have any. I understand a lot of people are joking around. It must be nice to have ammo. No people at Federal or whatever. Well, it is, and that's what we do. But the thing is, before we had ammo sponsorship and all that, in my whole shooting life, essentially, I have tried to stay stocked up. It's a lot like the little budget lesson I gave you a couple weeks ago. You want to save some money, put it aside every week, every month. Watch it build up. Okay, gather interest, and before you know it, you got some. And also rainy day funds and all that. Well, I've always kind of taken the same approach with ammo. You really want to buy ammo regularly. if you're a serious, well, not serious, but if you like to shoot and you go shooting pretty often, it's like, why not? Why not have twice as much as you need or 10 times as much as you need? Guess what? It's not going to get cheaper. When it might from what it is right now, because we're in one of those periods of time. But the time to buy it is when it's not short. Right? And just have you some, So once we get through this, and you don't have to go buy up all the ammo once the shortage is over, or else there'll still be a shortage. But just every week, so, or when you get paid, if you're on a pretty tight budget, just buy a box of ammo. And maybe you don't even go shooting that week or that month or whatever, but you just build up some ammo, and when something like this happens, you have extra ammo. Now you still have to be careful, right? We don't want to get down to nothing, but just something to think about. And because I remember when I was competing back in the early 90s, and I was buying a lot of cast bullets, and I was a weirdo. I was shooting 38 Super. I was shooting mostly 45 ACP, but I also was shooting 38 Super and cast bullets, and big old heavy ones. But anyway, I would stock up. There at that time there weren't as many people casting bullets. It was kind of hard to find somebody that was making lead bullets, and we had a source here and there. They'd sort of come and go, and I would try to buy. I remember at one point I had like 8,000 or 9,000 just bullet heads, just the lead 230 grain bullet, because I was shooting so much 45. And I remember thinking ahead, because you couldn't always find cast bullets, even if you had the money, and didn't have time to cast them. And I remember thinking that how many years will these last me, loading or shooting like I do, and then thinking I'm just going to keep stocking up, because one day when I retire, don't have as much money, I'll still have ammo, and primers, and just thinking ahead, like you would with money, So anyway, plan ahead. You don't want to not have any ammo. Can I shoot the rifle again? Yeah, I like this thing. It's really neat to have it in 357. I know it's an adulteration, and a lot of people, including myself, I really love these old guns, and I hate to see them messed with. But somebody had already done this. It was in a shop, and it was priced right. And other than the rechambering of it, it's just a neat old gun. And and the proof markings, everything on the barrel indicate it was this barrel. They didn't put a new barrel on it or anything. They just ringed it out. And I did some research on it, of course, and discovered that I think it was in the 50s that a lot of these were done. And they were actually, I think, sent back to Winchester even. So to have that done. So, it's all right. Yeah. I have one of these in 4440 that's really, you've seen it, I hope, in nice shape. And that's my intact, firearm. It's not been messed with. Have we hit the gong yet? I think we did once. Red plate. That'd be a pretty good hog gun, wouldn't it? Yeah, 357 is pretty stout, and in a rifle with a longer barrel, you get some pretty good ballistics, out of that. So, all right, what am I going to talk about, philosophize about today? Anything? I'll do a little philosophizing. Well, speaking of ammo, I was having new tires put on my car, and this week, and there's an Academy Sports right close to where I had my tires put on, so I ambled over there to kill some time, and it was. I don't go in there much, and it was like the apocalypse. There's like almost no ammo on the shelves, virtually empty, totally. Wow, it's not an exaggeration, is it? The shortage that we're having, as we talk here, and this week we're looking at what number? Yeah, it's number 36 on the Sunday shoot-arounds, September the 6th. And ammo is just extremely short, worst I've ever seen, really, in my life, as I've said. But that was interesting to see that. Certain shotgun shells they had a lot of. That was interesting. So, I guess all the companies that already, I don't know, dove season opened this week, I think. Sounded like it around here. I could hear it, but anyway. So, anyway, tires is always an interesting job putting on tires. Speaking of economics and that kind of thing, the old price versus cost issue, I've always thought tires were a good example of that. There are exceptions, and people argue about which tires are better and all that sort of thing. But tires are one thing where, generally speaking, the more you pay, the better tire you get. And the more good miles you get out of those tires, right? And there was someone there that was in the shop that was, they were in bad shape, tire, well, and they just needed to get a tire replaced. They wanted the cheapest tire that would get the job done, that kind of thing. And and sometimes that's what you do need and what you want. But I'm a bit of a tire snob, I admit, because there's nothing more important, hardly. Kind of your shoes and your good shoes and tires and things. It's a safety issue, control issue, your vehicle, not to mention the miles you get out of it, And, sometimes you can buy a tire that's maybe half the money, but you get half the mileage or less than half the mileage. And then plus they're more likely to blow on you or something, So you don't really save a lot. But a lot of people, you don't have a choice. You got to get the cheapest thing, get the car rolling, So it depends on whether you're going to keep it very long, I guess. But anyway, that always comes to my mind. And what else am I going to philosophize about before I shoot again? Oh, I know what. There was a comment I saw, happened to run across, and some goofball, and like imagine that, a goofball when you have quite I don't know, a following, or a larger channel, you're going to have all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But I think the thing that just I find bizarre is it's not just the haters. You got a bunch of haters, of course, everywhere. But sometimes they'll get a little creative. I saw a comment and, block the idiot. But there's a comment, so you didn't see it. But here's whatever language and stuff, it was automatically filtered pretty much. But some guy made some comment about, we've seen this maybe 2 or 3 times the whole time we've been doing this, but it was something to the effect that, I forgot what kind of obscene language he used, but that I was, Hickok was a douche to his dad and then to me too, and all this stuff, and he's not what he seems to be and all this stuff. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. You got to wonder where that kind of hate, comes from. And it's probably not just hate. In that case, it's some kind of weird envy, because the very last thing John and I have ever done or, would be is like rude to anybody. It's one of my pet peeves. That's the reason I find it so interesting. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, it's like someone, like the last thing you would ever do on the planet is to smoke a cigarette, because both of your grandparents died from lung cancer and they smoked or something, and you won't even go near somebody smoking a cigarette. But somebody claims they saw you smoking a cigarette, you're a hypocrite. It's kind of like that, and it's just like, what, because I can't even count the times when I've been in a hurry or just been real busy, or like at an NRA meeting or somewhere, a SHOT Show, when we're going to a million different places. I never am rude to anybody. I mean, for John and me, you all come first. If we run into you, that's why I've told you over the years, if you see us, come up and say hi. I want you to come up and say hi. Yeah, really, shake your hand. It's just but it's bizarre, when you got like creative weirdos like that. It's like, wow. You wonder, wow, what other kind of weird stuff, might they come up with? But anyway, I just I just thought I would mention that, and you didn't even see it because he got filtered, but still, it's just weird that people. I'm not sure what subject that falls under, other than just amazement at how weird people can be, or how empty they can be, how false or fake or envious or hateful. I don't know what adjective you use. It's just sad, and I don't know, it's just sad. Okay, can I shoot this thing again? All right, 45 slugs coming at you. Quick. All right. Good old 45 Colt, one of my favorite chain rings of all time, right? Of all time. What a piece of history, these old guns. Even though this one is it's a piece of recent history. It might have just been made, in the last 6 months or something, or 3 months. I don't know. Pretty neat, though. Pretty neat. So you'll be seeing that, okay? It's the Rooster shooter, from Cimarron, and it's one of y'all recommended it. In fact, it hadn't been 2 weeks ago, I guess. One of you left a comment, or on Facebook or something, said you ought to look at this one, and I'm not familiar with that, and I went and looked for it and see what it was, and it's pretty interesting. So I'm glad I did. Yeah. I know you think I ignore y'all, and I probably do. A lot of times, I can't go through every comment or answer everything, but I do see things. I skim through, and things catch my eye because I'm not familiar, believe it or not, with every firearm that's made out there. And people are doing so many different things, and I'm focused on a lot of things firearms wise, but I'm also focused on the firearms I like that I shoot, and sometimes I'm not even aware of something like this that's, as you know, is right up my alley. I love good old 45 Colt pistols. So pretty neat. What else did you want to know about? Let's see, I'm not forgetting anything. No, probably not. I know, a little philosophy. I heard somebody on a talk show this week say something that I thought was good. He said that he was saying that we're all exactly where we're supposed to be in life. We're all exactly where, well, he used bad grammar. He said we're all exactly where we're supposed to be at in life. Now, what does he mean by that? And he went on to explain, and he got into the discussion about how and I've talked about this too, I guess, we are the sum of everything, and really of all of our decisions and all the things that have brought us, right to this point where we are. Meaning, it's sort of the point is it's something that I have thought about and talked about, and that was an interesting way to say it. We're all exactly right where we're supposed to be at. Okay, now I don't know if that's exactly the truth, right? But the point is, everything we do from the time we are 6 years old, we start school, and everything we do, and our parents do, where we're born, all of that is what brings us to right where you are right now, whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whoever you're married to, if you're married, if you're not, where you're living, your income. It's largely the product of just all of that, isn't it? Exactly. And any little thing back along the way could have changed that for the better or for the worse, right? I always think about that myself. I've talked about that, I guess, how, wow, it's fun to think about how, or it's interesting to ponder sometimes the thousands of decisions that we make. And then the quite a few, tens, hundreds, we make that actually change, of course, the direction of what we're doing in a big way, maybe, where you went to school or whatever, where you dated this woman or guy or whatever, and even met them, or whether you went to this event, you wouldn't have met so and so, whom you later married and have 5 kids or something, and moved to Texas because her parents are down there and they're real sick, and now you're living in. I mean, all the little decisions that lead to bigger ones and bigger movements in our life. It's really interesting, and it's not a pure science, of course, but really all the things that we decide to do, are what bring us to where we are. The one thing I like about that, being reminded of that, and I think it's good for everybody to be reminded of that. If you're a young person, kind of the converse of that, the way to look at that, to make it a useful exercise maybe, is if you're young, just be aware of that. Every decision that you make right now, it could have an incredible impact on you when you're 40 or you're 50 or 80 or 90, whatever, where you're living, what your income is, your health, all of that. And you don't even realize it maybe, but it's just all the more reason to try to make smart decisions. And of course, every little thing we decide, it takes us maybe into a different zone and a different direction. And all those directions might be good, but sometimes a decision we make can take us down the wrong path, right? And without even thinking it will. You think about, I guess it ties into the accountability issue. We have so many people now who think that they're victims, of society or whatever. And that, and you never want to apologize for being successful at whatever it is you do. If you're a good student, or you have a good job, you live in a nice neighborhood because you have worked hard, you have ambition, you made the right decision. You never want to apologize for that. I always think about, well, what about, it's easy for somebody to look at you. You live in a nice neighborhood, you have a nice house, a nice family, and you're successful, and it's easy for somebody to be envious of you. But what were they doing when you decided you really would have liked to have gone out for the weekend with a bunch of your buddies when you were in college or whatever, high school, but you had this research paper to finish, or else you were going to have a low grade. It was going to mess up your GPA and everything, and so you really had to stay back and finish that. Or in high school or middle school, you just didn't feel like studying that night. Studying just wasn't important. You made the decision maybe to just float through school or drop out of school. All those decisions, make a person, who they end up being, or along the way when they're 20, they're 25, 30, right down the line. And so it's not somebody else's fault, the decisions that you or I make, right? I made all those decisions. I've made some bad decisions, some less than great decisions along the way. I've made some really good decisions. I've made some decisions that turned out maybe better than I thought they would. Luck is always out there ready to play with us, or the randomness, of the world and everything. So that's all the more reason to try to make good decisions, isn't it? Because it brings us to where we are. Yep, everything does. So I just always think that's something interesting to think about. And it brings me to a pretty nice Colt 45 firearm. I won't talk about that. I talked about that, last week or week before, didn't I? The 45 long Colt versus 45 Colt. It's really 45 Colt, but we won't give anybody too hard a time. I won't, for calling it long Colt. In fact, you see it on the ammo boxes sometimes. It's just interesting. So there we go. As per my little lecture on that, it's longer than the 45 Schofield. All right, let's shoot something. Let's go close. Cowboy. How could I not shoot the cowboy? That should be 5. And it was, yeah. So, yeah, man. I'm just glad I made enough either good decisions or bad decisions to bring me right here, okay? To to a point where I have enough ammo and enough guns to keep me out of trouble. How's that? Okay, keep me off the streets. All right, keep me out of the bars. So yeah, it's kind of random though, isn't it? So anyway, yeah, another. I've thrown this one at you before, probably in a deep woods thought that ties into that. You know, it's sort of a tribute to Robert Louis Stevenson, but I think it's paraphrased. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. It's so true. Eventually, we all sit down to a banquet of consequences. Yep. Write that one down, young people. Eventually, we all sit down to a banquet of consequences. Yeah, man, don't we? And I like to add to that either because of our actions, decisions, and things we do, or inaction. Now, that's the thing I think we don't focus on enough with ourselves is the inaction, things we didn't do, things we failed to do, things we could have done but we didn't do. Well, that's a part of the banquet. It's part of the banquet of consequences. Sometimes the consequences of inaction are bigger, more serious than the consequences of actions. So just something to remember. And I've always thought that was a pretty smart thing for him to write or say, if indeed he did, right? And when I see wisdom, something pretty brilliant, and then I find out the gal didn't really say that or whatever, so what? It doesn't matter. If something is really a pearl of wisdom, doesn't matter where it comes from. Doesn't matter where it comes from, right? So it's kind of like what I talk about occasionally is separating like the artist from the art and different things. It's hard for a lot of people to do. It's hard for me to do sometimes. But if something is a piece of genius, it just is. And I don't care. Maybe I don't even like the person, the creator of it, or whatever. And I've got lots of reasons not to like that person. It's worthwhile. It's like it even ties to politics. I think it used to be that you'd hear people sounding really smart. They would say, I don't really belong to a political party. I vote for the man. You're talking about presidents, it's usually been a man, right? But I vote for the man, or I vote for the person. I don't pay attention to the politics, yeah. And that all sounds oh so smart and open-minded and enlightened in a lot of ways. I was thinking about that recently, how I almost take the opposite approach to it. Partly because of people and because politics have become so clear. Everybody listening and watching, most of you, unless you're still young and haven't kind of figured that out, but most of us know very well what we think politically, where we stand on issues of freedom and different things, taxes, big government, little small government, or whatever. We all kind of have a clear picture of that in our heads, what we want, right? So when I'm looking at the ballot, politicians, elections, it doesn't matter to me much if a politician is very smooth and seems like a really upstanding person. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me what race they are, what gender they are, any of that. It's what they stand for in terms of their platform more than anything. I don't want some total idiot, sitting in the Oval Office in terms of they can't even talk without blubbering or so. I don't, that obviously there's limits to this, right? But, I don't vote for the person as much as I vote for that platform, the platform. So I take kind of the opposite of that. So, and I've talked about that before, so I won't repeat myself. So I don't want to get too philosophical. I ain't smart enough. Can I shoot this one more time before I let you go? Oh, man. I'll tell you. Oh, I've got a pin loosening up there, don't I? I sure do. Holding on that magazine. I have my gunsmithing tools with me and punches. Yeah, that's better. I'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Okay. All right, 357 Magnum. See, it says it right on the barrel when they rechambered it. If you can see that. It says it on the barrel. Some of you can read, right? Okay. That's how I knowed it was 357. I remember in the gun shop when I saw it over there and I asked to look at it, and I picked it up. And I thought, okay. The guy in the shop didn't know when it was made, but I looked at it. I thought, this is not a recent. This is an old Winchester, 92, 357 Magnum. What about that? Where'd that happen? So I hadn't seen one chambered in this, but it's a very popular chambering in the new replicas, reproduction models. And so that's what I always look at. I always look at this as I purchased this instead of buying a Uberti replica. Okay, so yeah, I mean you can make fun of it and call it trash because it's got it's a weird chambering, but so I mean it doesn't. I don't regard it as highly as my 4440, of course, which is still like it ought to be. But I just look at this and compare it pretty much with a replica. And like I say, I pay even less for it, so it's kind of neat. Okay. And plus, it's a little historical. This might have been done in 1950, 70 years ago. Wow. Even the rechambering is antique. Time moves on. Have you noticed that? All right, what do I shoot? I'll try a red plate. That will take a 6 o'clock hold for sure. Had to finish up on the gong. Oh boy, that's a nice rifle. Okay, try anything else I'll leave you with. Any kind of brilliance? Probably not. I kind of throw some notes, just things I might talk about, and one thing is a pet peeve I will talk about before I let you go is whenever somebody talks about the good old days, or going back to the good old days, or that kind of thing, or I should have been born in 1800 or 1890 or something like that, don't you just want to gag when people interpret that the wrong way? Well, they actually don't really interpret it the wrong way. They're just somebody with an agenda. If you ever, I don't really do it much, but if you ever express, fondness for, the 50s. I wish I could have been alive in the 50s or whatever, before all the craziness or the internet, whatever it might be. Well, you know what somebody's going to say probably. They go, oh yeah, the good old days of segregation, right? Or if you want, I'd like to have lived back in the 1860s or 1850s, or that'd have been a time for me. Oh yeah, slavery, you'd love that, right? Yeah. Well, that's not what people mean, is it? That's not what people mean when they would entertain the notion of how nice it might have been in different ways. Of course, it always looks better, 2020, right, looking in the past. But it makes you want to gag when people always throw things like that, and it's like I say, I've been repeating that I guess a lot lately. I think people are more enlightened than they used to be, and it's just pretty obvious, really. It's just the media and the politicians and anybody who has something to gain by keeping folks divided. And there's a lot of people who have something to gain by keeping the division going. Really do. It's hard to get elected if you can't create an evil force. You can't. It's a shame, but it's part of it. And I don't know about most people. I want to think most people see through it, and most people have a brain, and most people have some common sense. But I think we're fast getting to the point where That's not most people. It's becoming a smaller and smaller percentage of people, unfortunately. And thankfully, a lot of people don't vote, right? And that's another thing where I've had a different opinion than a lot of people have. Some people act like it's a sacred thing. Vote, vote. Everybody needs to vote. Hey, vote, vote. Hey, if you don't know the issue, you don't study the issues, and you're easily swayed by whoever just happens to say something bad or good about a particular candidate or whatever, hey, do us all a favor. Don't vote. Nothing sacred about that. There is something kind of sacred about people who keep up with the issues and know what both platforms are, or 3 or 4, however many people running, or parties, and vote. Then it's an educated vote. So there is something sacred in a way about an educated vote, okay, an intelligent vote. But just to vote, duh, you're canceling out the vote of somebody who actually knows something or studies the issues, thinks occasionally, has a thought coming across their mind occasionally, So, but anyway, that's all the wisdom I got, and that ain't much, is it? That isn't much. So I will see you next week, I assume. Okay, we never know, do we? We never know. Like I say, I might do a little trip here. I'm not sure, but I'll still do the Sunday shoot around, okay? And talk to you at least, blabber at you, maybe fire a cap gun if I'm out of town. But I'll probably see you next Sunday morning, okay? And again, I appreciate you all tuning in. And like I say, keep us bookmarked, because a lot of videos are flagged, they're demonetized, and that puts them in a different place in the algorithm. Like I say, they're not recommended or suggested as much. We can tell the difference, and so we have no control over a lot of that. So, but you all do, and I do. The people I like to keep up with, it really doesn't matter if they're demonetized, because I know where to find their videos. It's not so much, I was telling somebody who were discussing this recently, it's not so much the extra pennies, that are made because a video is monetized or not. That's not as important to us as the weird algorithm and how it seems to be affected, that sort of thing. So anyway, all right, I'll shut up. Y'all been very quiet. Hope you didn't pick up any ticks today. Hope you didn't perspire and sweat as much as I have. And I guess I'm kind of dirty. I've been out doing stuff today and working on You notice I fixed the gong. I moved the gong, for example, even between rain showers. And I've been, working on the range some, things like that. Busy. Got my tractor back. Had to have work done on it. What else did I do? I had to, I forgot. I've been tied up all day. Anyway, good to see you, and I can't say it enough how we appreciate your support, and really appreciate the fact that you appreciate the way we do videos, because they are not slick. They are not slick. There's nothing sexy about our videos. I'm not slick. John's not slick. We don't edit them to make them slick. And if that could be done. And by the way, that reminds me, the videos this week, the Thompson video, John's SBR, Thompson 45 ACP, submachine gun. That's not a machine gun because it's semi-automatic. I looked at that. I thought, we tend to leave too much in the videos. Actually, speaking of not being slick, where I was struggling with the drum, and that was really hung up. But I should have edited some of that out. I thought, why didn't I edit at least the 30 seconds of that? I'm not afraid to see, for you all to see me struggling and have trouble with something. But we don't want to be ruin a video, which is okay. So Hickok's going to spend 5 minutes struggling with this. I'll go have dinner or something. But anyway, sometimes we probably should try to make it a little slicker than it is, right? So But anyway, we don't want to hide anything because we don't really have anything to hide. Everything we do, or all of our business, is not everybody's business, right? Obviously, but we just want to make it clear that we don't really have anything to hide. Anything to hide. We're very transparent. As much as somebody can be, transparent. No obligations to any gun companies, and we're again so thrilled that we have the support from people that appreciate that, like Talon Gun Grips and Ballistol and Buzz Gun Shop, and the Sonoran Desert Institute, Federal Premium, that appreciate the way we operate, and know that the whole reason we can accept help from them is that we don't do reviews on lubes and compare. We don't grips or ammo comparisons. Now we do gun comparisons, but we don't have a sponsorship from a manufacturer, so Budge doesn't care what we think of a gun, any specific gun, this one, or even if it breaks, it doesn't. They sell a lot of different guns. They don't make firearms, right? And so anyway, we'll let that out. But so we're very fortunate that we have been able to work with good people, and it's keeps us objective. We're able to remain objective. I mean, it's not an accident. It's by intent, and so that's a continuous thing. So even if we have a support from somebody different, it's going to be the same situation. It would be nothing that we review that we would have to hold our nose and pretend we like something. Hold my nose and pretend I like something, right? And lie to you. Wouldn't that be horrible? I'm too old to do that. I was always too old to lie about something like that when I was 5. Not that I probably somewhere didn't tell a little white lie, when I was a kid. I'm, like everybody else. I'm not any better than anybody else, really. But I do try. I try to do things the right way. Okay, at least I'm trying. And I know you are too, which is perplexing. If you're trying to be smart, you're trying to do the right thing, trying to do the smart thing, what are you doing watching me? Yeah, you might want to ask yourself that question. No, glad you came by, and I'll see you next Sunday morning, okay? Life is good.